Wondering what the F has happened to your body and your life? You're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to Season 3 of Transforming 45, where we dive into the incredible stories of how brilliant humans are navigating the midlife squeeze with courage, passion, and a healthy dose of humor. Don't miss out on any of our heart-led episodes. Hit the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and if you're inspired, share an episode you love with a friend. It means more to me than I can express that you're choosing to spend time here and sharing our message of midlife revolution. So let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week, I am thrilled to welcome a friend and a colleague and a fellow menopause warrior right here in the area that we live, which is really lovely. So this week, I am welcoming Dr. Béatrice Séguin. She has a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences and has dedicated her career to advancing innovation in health and beauty. Her work has taken her across the U.S., Africa, Asia, and Latin America, with research published in journals like Nature and Science. Proud of and rooted in her French, Canadian, and Latin American heritage, she co-founded MOB Beauty and later founded Estra, a woman's health brand focused on midlife and menopause. Her mission is to empower women and promote equity in health, beauty, and wellness. Through her podcast, this time of the month, she champions evidence-based women's wellness, fostering a community of empowerment for women in midlife and beyond. You know, it never ceases to amaze me the incredible talent and powerful women who are right here in our own backyard. So, Béatrice, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here today.
Thank you so much for having me and for saying that too, because I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that people don't realize the talent that we all have in our communities. And I think that applies, across the globe. But we tend to look to, let's call it the celebrity or notoriety, maybe, right?
Yes.
Louder voices, and we need those louder voices, not disputing it. But we forget that we have so many talented people serving our community quietly.
Yes.
In the trenches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important to remember that, because we can fall under that sort of false or that illusion that it is only people with big platforms who are doing the work, when so often, and again, like you said, like, this is not pitting one against the other. Each has its own position and its value that it provides. And there are so many really talented, creative, thoughtful people in our own communities who also, it's one of the reasons why I love podcasting, because it means handing the microphone to somebody who maybe hasn't had the opportunity to have it, and they deserve to have their voice be heard. So that was a really
totally.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's start right at the beginning. So, Béatrice, tell me, who are you and how did life introduce you to this version?
Who am I? I'm a proud Gen Xer. Let's start there. As you mentioned in the bio, I have a French, Canadian, and Latin American heritage, which has given me a very rich cultural lens through which I see the world. I've always been super curious about science, beauty, and health equity, and that ties to my Latin American heritage and the matriarchs that raised me. I think that blend of cultural influences has made me appreciate complexity and diversity in all its forms. So then, that's sort of who am I, and what brought me here as well. In my life threw me in a whirlwind, and I'm sure, and I've had the pleasure of tuning into one of your episodes, and I know on my podcast, and we hear this every day in this menopause movement, the whirlwind of life, the train that just kind of like hits you because you're, in my case, I was raising young children. I did a PhD at postdoctoral fellowship. So my journey to having children, and, I was in my mid-30s when I started my family, not realizing that I going to begin the perimenopausal journey as I was raising toddlers. So that mixed in with career changes, and the career changes happened for many reasons. Okay. But that just created this tornado, I would say. And when you don't realize you're experiencing symptoms related to perimenopause, you think they're things that are your fault and that you're not doing. That whirlwind threw me into a lot of self-doubt, a lot of searching for answers, but also for a community that didn't exist for me. Now, I want you and, the listener to know that's not my whole story, but it's part of it. And I think we're all multifaceted, complex women. And it's through that complexity and journey that we find our true selves. And that's what led me to creating this time of the month. Really, it was a journey of self-discovery. And I wanted to do it with a community because I don't have all the answers. Yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story. And I love when you're talking about the multifaceted and complexity of every person and their story, right? Like that question, how did life introduce you to this version? There are so many ways that people approach that question, which is always really interesting, and the thread that they choose, right? Because it is just one thread that you've pulled from this tapestry that is your life, right? And it's the one thread that led you to this time of the month community. And when you
Yep.
think about like all of the other factors that have happened throughout your life, when I really stop and do that big like drop up, when I do a big like step up and look at the totality of my life, it's incredibly well designed, even though it didn't feel like it in all of the moments. And quite honestly, it doesn't feel like it right now because my whole life is like in complete and utter turmoil at the
Yes.
moment. And I know that 2 years from now, when I do that again, when I do that big step up and look down at all of the things that happened, I will be able to see the brilliant design that, even though it's painful, leads us to where we're meant to be.
Yeah. And it's okay that your life is not only complex, but full of contradictions. So like that multifaceted thing,
Mm-hmm.
I also think, yeah, the contradiction, some people might point to that as a negative, but it's not. That's the point is we have conflicting emotions, contradictory actions, that, and those are the things we need to understand to grow and get to where we're supposed to be as a, and I think it's those challenges that allow us to, I don't know if the word is destination because we're always in movement,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
but get to that next step, I guess.
Yeah. Get to the next place, the next chapter,
Yeah.
which is so foundational in, I know, the work that you are doing in this time of the month and in the perimenopause journey in general, right? So we have all of the physical shifts and changing that are happening within our bodies. And then we have all of the shifts and changes that are happening in the structure around us. And not only are those things happening, but we also now have a lifetime of lived reality and lived experiences that we have brought with us to this moment. And how do you feel that your journey so far, how is that informing the work that you're doing now and moving forward?
Well, I think the first step was recognizing that I wasn't happy with how I was feeling, right? So, I'm 51 now. So this is we're talking like, more than 10-year journey that we're trying to summarize here. But when I look back, first, you're not even aware. You're not aware. You're just go, 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 go. You're feeling things. Then you have to take a time out and be like, wait, I don't feel right, right? Then you have to start verbalizing. And for me, the sort of first aha moment was when I started verbalizing things that weren't feeling good for me, whether it was anxiety, some of the symptoms that we talk about that perimenopause associated to perimenopause, whether it's anxiety, not feeling good about the changes in my body. And it was really internal to me, not feeling good about them. And when you verbalize, and of the world around me started responding to that with statements like, well, just exercise more, eat better, rest, or, lower your stress. They felt like platitudes to me. They felt so condescending. And that's what I was like, time out. I don't like what I'm hearing. I need to start looking into this myself. And when you're reading, whether it's, scientific literature, talking to various experts in health, but not just in health, right? Mind, body, spirit experts. Then I started gaining control and being an agent of where I wanted to go. It doesn't mean it happens fast. It doesn't mean that all the issues go away. But once you start gaining control, agency, perhaps a better word, gathering tools in your toolbox, trying them, realizing, a tool is not a tattoo. You can try something. If it doesn't work, try another thing or whatever. That's where I started feeling better,
Yeah.
growing, better in my body, taking it, all of it. And the sisterhood. I cannot underscore the importance of finding women, older, peer group, younger, talk to. And that is so therapeutic. It's so therapeutic. It gives you so much strength. That's been an incredible part of my journey.
Absolutely. And we are going to come back to that. And I wanted to go back to when you said, it wasn't feeling right for me and my body. And I think sometimes women feel like there has to be this big, like, implosion or big failure or something to be the sign that it's time to do something different. Right. And the reality is, like, if you get to that point where there's the failure, that's the universe going like, okay, friend, we're done. Like, we have given you all the messages we can possibly give you. So now this is going to be painful and we're sorry. And it's going to be better on the other side. But because you and I had similar sort of experiences at the ends of the careers that we had before they transitioned into what we're doing now. And it wasn't that there wasn't a big major failure. There wasn't a big, in fact, you were excellent at your work. I was excellent at my work. And it didn't feel right for me anymore.
That is so important to share. And, thank you for bringing that out. I hear from women, you and I talk, we're in this, so we're talking about it every day, in real life or on our socials. And the feedback I often get, some of it is nonverbal or in real life, nonverbal cues, but there's this sense of like tolerating. It's not bad enough, whether it's a physical symptom or something happening in your life, work, home, relationships. We've been raised to just, wait for a catastrophic or, event that's like a broken bone. So like, I got to fix that broken bone. Has to be that big for me to act on it. Otherwise, I'm just going to be taking care of everyone else around me. And I'm just going to tolerate it's not that bad and me push it down or just keep going. And so I think it is okay to stop and say, this isn't right for me at this point. And what does it mean? It doesn't have to mean a radical career shift. Some of us choose that. Some of us have that forced on us. Some of that, but what does it mean for you? Yeah, that's an important, it's okay to take that time and ask yourself that question.
Yeah, it's really important. And when you use the word tolerate, that really hit for me, because I see that pattern too. And I see it in myself, right? That we tolerate and tolerate and tolerate until we just can't anymore. And then we're in a space where we're in a much deeper hole than we were before. And I hear that even, we were talking about life context. And I also hear humans who menstruate talk about that in terms of their symptoms. It's like, well, I'm having this and I'm having this and I'm having this, but it's not that bad. It's that, again, it's that, well, it's not great, but it doesn't have me on my knees, or it hasn't completely incapacitated me. So until that happens, I'm just going to take the discomfort.
Yeah. I wish I could tell my younger self that I hope that the younger versions of the humans around us realize that, there are things you can be doing early on to avoid or set yourself up for a less shocking transition, I would. And some of the emotions that come with a shocking transition, like anger
Oh,
and
grief.
resentment and grief. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, so we know each other. So we have a little bit of the benefit of being able to be like, we've had some of these conversations before, but
Yes.
also of having that sense of, how did I get here? Right?
Yes.
Because even though, we both made choices that we are both that we're passionate about, like I've made choices that I'm passionate about, I would not change my choices. And yet sometimes the struggle is still very real around, I was on the train, I was doing all the things. I had a career with a great income and health benefits and all the things. And I had no idea how much of my own self-worth was wrapped up in those things that were completely external to myself.
Mm. I think that's probably something many of us can relate to. It's a deep question because are we raised, to follow that one train, or go through that one door? I wish it doesn't mean you would change your choices. But when I talk to, for instance, I have a teenage daughter and a son, I try to tell them there are more than one doors that you can walk through. And I think that's where I kind of go back to that proud Gen Xer, but Gen Xers definitely have a set of issues that we've
Yeah, we do.
inherited. And I think part of that was like this dream or the Kool-Aid that we could have it all, and that you have to have it all, and you have to want it all. You have to
Yes.
want it all. So career, Wonder Woman, Martha Stewart level wife, no disrespect to Martha Stewart, the children, the career, the great job, the this, the that, the this, the that. And it's like, you can have it all. It's a little bit of a not accurate picture. And so you march forward and you're doing all these things, but really, was it ever realistic? And so some of those feelings of failure or realizing actually, is that what I actually wanted? Was that what I wanted? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's what I truly wanted or what I thought I wanted.
Yes, absolutely. That I thought I wanted. And this is such an important conversation that those of us who are in Gen X, particularly who are identify as women, are having that conversation of, yeah, we were told that we could have it all and that is what we should want.
And
That
that's success.
statement, yes, and that is success. And that is something that is so, I think, so deep in all of us now, that when we make a choice that is something outside of that very specific narrative that was told to us, and we can look at all of the social cultural reasons as to why that happened. Like, I understand why that happened, right? Women before us didn't have the same kind of choices and so fought really hard for it. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to the women who came before us and who made those sacrifices and who created that advocacy. And the reality of the human experience is that's what happens, right? Like, we go on a big swing.
Yeah.
in one trajectory until we have the experience to go, ooh, there's some issues with this. So now we need to, sort of really reflect and evaluate and think about what it is that we really want. So until we can come back a little bit more to center, because I've talked to so many women who are having the same experience of, yes, I wanted to have a family and I wanted to have a career and I wanted to have all the things. And in service of having all the things, I've completely sacrificed myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it somehow felt like, not a badge of honor, but that sort of self-sacrifice, is something that's rewarded perhaps.
Absolutely.
And realizing that that's not the case, then taking that time to realize what truly matters to me, which can be perceived as difficult, right? That's why I think there's this struggle, that one of the reasons that a struggle may occur in and it can manifest in your career, it can manifest in your relationship, right? And it's because, and perhaps, the loss of or the decline in estrogen is definitely a biological reason why we start to tolerate less in our life and question more. And when you start to question, you start to push back. You create boundaries that you didn't allow yourself to create before or to set. And that can be perceived as difficult. It can be perceived as difficult by your peers, your family. But you've always been this one way. Mom, what do I find myself now when I'm asked what's for dinner, I'm like, good question.
Yeah, you
Great
tell me.
question. You tell me, and let's go and look in the fridge and cook together. Right. And it's like, whoa, or it can be at work, just kind of standing in your confidence and in your beliefs and your values, and appear difficult, which can cause tension. Yeah, I think those are the things that we're faced with. But I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. I feel so thankful that it's a decade-long journey, but now at 51, shedding the things that don't serve me, knowing quickly if something doesn't feel right, realizing no is a complete sentence. I do not need to explain to you why. If you ask me out for coffee tomorrow, Lisa, and we're new friends, if I say no to you, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't mean I don't want to be your friend. It's like before there was a whole set of excuses on any level, right? So I think these are very empowering. It's an empowering stage of life. We need help. We need support on multiple fronts: healthcare, societal, community, sisterhood. And it's a really beautiful journey. And I like to think, I've moved from FOMO to JOMO at 51.
What is JOMO?
So FOMO, we know, fear of missing out. And I think when you're young, there's a lot of that, right? Now it's the joy of missing out. And I did not coin this term. I saw it somewhere. I don't remember where, but when I saw it, I was like, JOMO, joy of missing out. I do not need to participate in everything or be everything to everyone.
And that's where my work, I talk about finding the magic in menopause. And that's what the magic is. Magic is, Wanda Sykes has a great comedy bit. I'm sure you've seen it. Estrogen is like the empathy drug. And when you have less estrogen, you don't have that empathy drug in your system anymore. And so you're a little more, I so related when you said difficult, because it's when you are a woman who stands in her power and says, look, I have this lived experience. I have this level of education. I've been in this system for 20 years and I'm seeing where the issues are. And I have a real perspective to bring to it and tell you, and you're not going to like everything that you hear. It doesn't mean that I am, but it is that perception of being seen as difficult. But it's if we could switch our perspective to, this is some wisdom. This is some wisdom that I am hearing, and it's not easy to hear. It's not necessarily the easy thing. And let's just listen to it. And that position removes the resistance, right?
And that's why we need to talk to the people around us, the
Yeah.
humans we live with, okay, including the partners, any partner that's not going through this phase yet, right? That, and changing that, helping them see that, yeah, this isn't about being difficult. I think we have a big job to do there on a societal front, for
Yes.
sure. I think this menopause movement that we're living through, I'm grateful for. It's about time menopause becomes a daily topic, because 51% of the world is going to go through it at one stage or another. And we're making a lot of progress talking about what the symptoms are, talking about evidence-based solutions. And that's certainly a major part of my,
Hmm.
community and podcast. But there are so many other layers that we are just beginning to unpack. And this, you know, internalized messaging about what it is to be feminine. We're agreeable, we're nurturing, we certainly don't get angry, because anger, but when did anger become a bad emotion? It's an emotion. It is an emotion. We feel many things, but anger and femininity is, whoa, do those two coexist? You're
Hmm.
aggressive, you're angry, you're difficult. We need to unpack those and know, feeling that emotion, stand in it, and then so that you can act on what you need to do to move past that emotion,
Yeah.
and let those around you see that, and recognize that you're on a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish I could remember the source that I heard this from the first time, but it has been really helpful for me in terms of anger, and that anger is your body and your soul's way of telling you that you deserve better. And I feel like that is the reason why it has been so discouraged in femininity. Because if you are tuning into and listening to your soul and your mind and your heart and your body and all of the things that are involved in anger, telling you that you deserve better, then you have this really empowered group who have the society at large has not wanted to be empowered for a really long time. And so making those connections back to, yes, emotions are not positive and negative. It's one of the things that like gets under my skin the most is when people use
Correct.
those words.
They just
Like
are.
they just
Tune
are.
into them, feel them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also that there are so many experiences of moving through perimenopause and menopause. And like you said, we're getting really skilled at talking about the symptoms. And yet again, at the same time, I know we have had this experience too, because we live in the menopause world. We feel like, oh yeah, everybody now knows.
Everybody knows. Yeah. No.
But no, but not. But the easiest entry point into the conversation is through symptomology, because it's the science, it's the facts. That's the easy way in. And then we have to get to all of the layers of how industrialization, patriarchy, colonialism has also created these conditions, and that every person is having a different experience. And there are cultures and societies that take a much different approach to women aging than North America does. And going back to that, like, who has the microphone?
Yeah. Absolutely. Who has the microphone? Recognizing lived experience, it will vary for different people, for sure. I wish we need more. That's why conversations like today, and that's why I hope there are 10 million more conversations to have, 100 million more conversations to have. That's why bringing in community members into our conversations matters. I've tried to do that. I'm early in my podcast days, so it's not like I've had 500 guests, but it is always incredible to see we each bring a context. We each bring a context to our midlife, perimenopause experience and perception. We can learn from other cultures. We can learn, well, obviously, not obvious. I don't know if it's obvious to other people, but just the word menopause itself, it's been written about, like the origin of that word was by a male doctor, rooted in Greek, like it just means stop, menses. But in other cultures, Asian cultures, it's second spring. So it's got a positive connotation. Dr. Jen Gunter's written about it in her book. If your listener hasn't purchased that book or borrowed it from the library, remains one of my favorite ones to start with on the Menopause Manifesto, because it does touch upon that. Just learning that how we perceive it can impact how we feel it and how we move through it with different tools. And I think that we need to hear more voices, and there's not just one way to deal with it. That I definitely recognize. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are at a time, again, going back to like the easy way into this conversation. And I use that like easy is
Yeah.
nothing is easy, but like the most accessible entry point is to symptomology. And so we are seeing clinicians playing the biggest role in the conversation right now. So predominantly physicians, and that's important. Like, there is not a single part of me that is saying that they should not be part of this conversation. Of course they should, because we know that we need skilled practitioners so that when humans who menstruate go to their doctor and say, I am having these symptoms, that person hears them and is able to serve them instead of saying, oh, you're too young, or yeah, it can't be that. And then the onus becomes on the person who's sitting in the chair to now advocate for themselves on top of everything they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So physicians are an essential part of the conversation. We know we need more research. We know we need science in this conversation, all of that. And as you were saying, there also are so many perspectives that are important. And so my one wish is that all of those clinicians and physicians who are holding the space in this menopause world start doing that, start inviting other perspectives into the conversation, because it's so essential. You and I have had lots of conversations about menopause hormone therapy and how important it is. And it is a pillar of treatment. It cannot stand alone.
No, I've written about this. And I've had discussions. I've talked about this, I think, publicly, but I am married to a physician. I'm married to an oncologist. So it brings in a really interesting dimension to our conversations. And that was, again, part of why I steadfast in wanting to create a community and speak publicly about my experience so that I could help other women. Because when I was going through the initial stages of like, whoa, like this, hot flushes, night sweats, belly weight that I wasn't happy with, all the things that, hair, it's okay. Like, by the way, that's not vain. It's not cool when you see your hair change or fall out, or you're exercising, you're doing what you think are the same things, the right things. They may not be, because they change as our, hormonal status. Like I didn't know that, but you feel like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff, but this is how I'm feeling. Whoa, I need an intervention of some sort, right? And in my particular case, I was like, I think I need some hormone therapy. And being married to an oncologist, who was raised, he's a Gen Xer, so he was in medical school and residency just post the publication of the Women's Health Initiative that showed an association between an increased risk of breast cancer and hormone therapy. And I don't want to go deep into that one. I think we've had a lot of experts who talked about it, and you may have talked about it in other episodes. I'm relating that part to my experience with a physician husband who was schooled in that, and his reaction was one of protection. But really, your after doing the heart, I did not feel hearts when he was telling me no to hormone therapy. I felt, what
I bet.
the are
Yeah.
you saying to me? It felt to my own, and I throw him under the bus, lovingly. But my loving husband, whom I do not consider misogynistic, I wouldn't be married to him if that was the case. Um, supportive, all that, but he himself was adopting a very patriarchal approach rooted in science. He was schooled in the WHI, hormone bad. I don't want my wife to have cancer. No, don't do it. And I could have just taken it for that, for face value. Like, okay, my husband is a medical doctor, even though I have a PhD in sciences. I could have just like, okay, I went to my family doctor who also is very supportive, yet also did not want me, was worried about this risk. So same generation, lots of information that may not have been up to date to current guidelines and revised data, right? I felt myself not fighting, but arguing, advocating for something with the two people that had immediate, let's call it power, right? That was astounding to me. It was astounding. And so that got me on the journey. I have advocated. I did access. In the end, I convinced both of them. And I'm really proud to say that my husband's practice has been informed by the work that I do. And he is a medical doctor. I have influenced him. He has now told his colleagues, hey, did you know? And of course, now we're in a broader movement, Menopause Society, there's more, has admitted, I forget if it's 2022 or 2023, the guidelines, but there are guidelines out there, but are they reaching all the primary caregivers, all the oncologists? Are they? I've seen continuing medical education events that are happening right now where you and I are talking in October. I don't know when this will air, but it's World Menopause Awareness Month and all of that. So there's a lot more awareness, but it still has to trickle down to the primary caregivers. And I'm kind of being long-winded in this, but I just want to show how, think of this. It's not that a medical professional, if they're not against us, but they also are humans. They are informed by things, and sometimes they need to be made aware, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Through this conversation, through my self-advocacy and accessing a medical tool that was right for me, there are more options. I keep repeating that. I'm not on the bandwagon of hormone therapy being the cure-all, but it helped me, but didn't help everything. And that's where I want to go to with you now, is in that I started writing things and saying things in my social media that menopause care is not hormone care. It's more than that. That's just one thing. It does not fix my perception of self, which I have struggled with. It does not fix my perception of value, which you touched upon. What is my value? Was all my value in my ability to produce life? No. Answer is no, but I questioned it. Is my value in my career all in my career? No, but I went through that deep doubt and questioning. Do women need more than healthcare providers to help them in that journey? Yes. Yes. So what I would like to see, I call it a model of care for menopause. And my husband and I argue because models of care in our healthcare system are usually built around a disease. That's just how it's been. Diabetes care, breast cancer, here's the model of care, whatever. But menopause is not a disease. It is normal, but it's a major transition in life that requires multifaceted care. In an ideal model, I would want to be able to be at the center of a circle where I have primary caregivers, nutritionists, fitness, therapists, coaches, sisterhood. It's a circle that I need to embrace.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm all in on absolutely everything that you are saying around that. It is, I'm going through the medical assistance in dying process with my dad currently, and is also a multifaceted model of care. And one of the things that I think is really powerful about that model of care is that there is a navigator who is assigned to you in that model of care who walks with you and helps you access everything that you need to access. And they actually don't know, they bring it to you. And
Navigators are great.
yes. And I just feel like that is what's missing from most of our systems, is that piece. And that is absolutely something we should be building when we are building that model of care, is that because the woman who is at the center is, in whatever the context is, it is an energy expensive storm. And the last thing you want to be doing in the midst of that energy expensive storm is advocating for yourself and trying to figure it
Figuring
all
the
out on
shit
your
out
own.
on your own. Let's
Exactly.
just call it what it is. That is
Yes,
what women in 2024, it is still that way. You said it
absolutely.
before, like you and I are in the States, so we think everybody knows, or, we think all the solutions are there. Part of them are, but we still lack research. There's many things that actually don't have evidence for in terms of other symptoms we might be feeling, physical symptoms, I mean.
Mhm.
But yeah, why do we have to figure this shit out on our own?
Right?
It's a complex issue and we're not going to fix it overnight. And I think this is something that repeats in our healthcare system. It's not just in menopause care. I think of mental health.
Yes.
Mental health, in my family, I mean, that we all are touched by someone who has gone through cancer, mental health issues, and so on. In mental health, I've witnessed it in my family where, let's say, the psychotherapist does not talk to the family physician, does not talk to the psychiatrist, because you might need, this is an example I'm giving, you might need all three.
Yes.
But are they talking to each other with that patient in the center? No, it's usually, if you have the energy, the time, and the know-how to rally them. So in my case, I have an example of where that's what I did. I actually reached out to each professional and said, we need, can you do a Zoom? Can we do a Zoom call to discuss my family member? Because I want to help my family member. And I feel like you're all doing something, but it's like kind of in a silo. Because this is something, the parallels, they exist. And we need to think of how do we do better, and here in our case specifically for menopause. But yeah, I think these are things that don't exist yet, or they can get improved. There's a semblance, there's an attempt. We talk about patient-centered care. Does it exist in a way that truly helps people? And that sadly, we have to recognize is it feasible in how our healthcare system is funded? Is it
Yes.
feasible? That's a tough one, but ideally that's what you would want.
Yes. Absolutely. So in the meantime,
Mhm.
while we are doing the work of advocating and helping to build these systems, let Beatrice and I be your navigators, and let us come into our community, because like you said, I also have this conversation with women who are like, yeah, it's just me and my friends sitting around trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And I always want to say, you are not
Yeah.
alone. Don't stay isolated in your little community feeling like you have to figure it out alone. There are so many places where you are welcomed in, and we will support you and walk with you through what your experience is.
And the world is a scary place because there's a lot of misinformation. And if you fall in a rabbit hole because you're trying to figure things out on your own, look to people who bring nuanced, evidence-based information to you. I've learned from some of the experts who have been on my podcast. And I think of one particular doctor in this case. She is a medical doctor, specializes in weight management. Her name is Dr. Ashley White. And we've become friends because one thing that stuck to me, it wasn't all the medical information she was giving about weight management, for instance. It was the fact that she said, if any one person that doesn't know you, and I mean know you like your medical history, but know you, your life context is telling you what to do in a 1, 2, 3, do this, and it will create that. Red flag, red flag. So that's what I would want. That's why community is important. That's why going to sources that rely on evidence, and I mean evidence of all kinds. Like it's not just medical. Like it's really important. Don't do it alone.
Yeah. And I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Don't do this alone. There are communities here to support you. And Beatrice, thank you so much for facilitating a community that embodies everything that you were just talking about. That it is safe and supportive and well informed. And I'm so grateful to you for being here and sharing your wisdom with us today.
I'm so grateful for having been connected to you and for being here today. So thank you so much, Lisa. This was really fun.
Thank you for being part of the Transforming 45 community. Your support means the world to us. Stay tuned for more juicy episodes and remember to keep showing up to your life with the love and magic you deserve. Until next time.